Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for another review from the 2023 EMTB Shootout presented by Fox Racing and Schwalbe Tires. Today, we're going to be reviewing the most affordable bike in our shootout, the Marin Rift Zone E2. Stay tuned, let's get into it. So the Rift Zone is brand new this year. It features the EP8 the new Shimano display and control unit, and it is a 140 millimeter bike front and rear, and it has been a lot of fun to ride. Let's talk about geometry first, and we'll get into some ride impressions and takeaways. Robert?
Yep,
Geo?
fairly well-rounded kind of trail all-mountain geometry, 65-degree head tube angle, 76-degree seat tube, 77-degree seat tube angle, 440mm chainstay. This size large has got a 485mm reach and a 625mm stack, and then 32mm BB drop. Overall wheelbase is 1246mm.
And a bottom bracket height's 348, which I'd say was a pretty good blend of keeping that weight low, but also not annoyingly low to where we were constantly striking pedals. Sean, I know one of the things that stood out to you on this bike was the EP8 drive unit. Why?
I thought it was quieter and a little bit more efficient.
Okay.
I didn't notice any Shimano rattle, as some of our commenters would complain.
Okay. So quieter descending or while pedaling on the power?
On the power, pedaling uphill.
Okay.
I thought it was a lot, maybe a little smoother too, delivering power.
Okay.
But could just be the whole new bike, new motor.
Right, okay.
I think potentially, rather than quieter per se, I'd say it's just a slightly nicer noise that it makes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a different tone
Just a different tone that's a little bit easier on the ears.
Absolutely. So moving into the rest of the spec, this bike is $62.99 for the retail price. They do start at $49.99. This bike comes with a 630 watt hour battery. The entry level bike comes with the 504, so I think that's worth noting. But this particular one comes with Shimano XT drivetrain with TRP DHR Evo brakes. This particular bike that we have as a 170 dropper, I think it's worth mentioning that Marin's website does say that it comes with a 150, which I think on a size large is a bit of a letdown. I think one of the other criticisms we might have on the spec is the 38 tooth chainring. Robert, you want to lead into that?
Yeah, so it's 38 tooth chainring up front and then 11 speed in the rear, although I think the cassette does go fairly big in the easiest cog, but even still on some of the steeper pitches where we'd all be riding together, of course I'm heavier and I'm always kind of struggling to keep up, but I did find that the motor maybe got a little bit bogged down when it got really steep, and kind of made it struggle a little bit to keep up.
Okay. So aside from those, which are, I don't think, major complaints by any means, let's talk about the pros of this bike. I find the Cushcore inserts to be, I don't know, maybe a pro since I didn't have to install them. But the weight is obviously a con, something that you noticed. Sean, you liked the feel, the ride, and didn't mind it.
I liked everything about this bike. It was just a very fun, poppy bike and very playful, but also not as heavy as Robert, so kind of rewarding.
I don't know what you're trying to say by that, but for me, the Cushcore inserts that are kind of fitted to it did prove to be a bit of a strange sensation for me. It's a 140mm travel bike, certainly towards the more trail or mountain side of things than an enduro bike. But when you add the weight and the kind of possibilities that the Cushcore open up, you then start to push it a little bit harder, I think.
Okay.
Because you're not exceeding the capabilities of the tire spec and kind of getting it to the end of its travel quite as easily. Mm-hmm. So then you kind of push it as if it's an enduro bike, end up like slamming into the bottom of the travel, or like, you know, just trying to rip it as hard as some of the 160, 170mm travel bikes.
Right.
So it doesn't do the enduro thing quite so well. But then on the flip side, I think for a 140mm bike, it's not quite as playful as some of the others on test.
Okay. Because
those wheels weigh a little bit more and they need a little bit more energy to spin up and a little bit more energy to change direction and slow down. So
It's also $3,000 more affordable than those bikes you think that are a little more playful.
I know, but I think
yeah.
for me, I'd pull the inserts out of this, and I think it'd make a notable difference to push it into a more fun trail bike category.
Would you, since we're talking hypotheticals, would you possibly go 150 or 160 fork on this thing?
Depends what I'm looking to ride, but I don't think it would hurt to up travel it 10 mil at the front. But I think as a 140, it is going to be more fun if you just pull the weight down a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. It, I don't know if we touched it, but it does weigh 55.2 pounds. That is, with our Schwalbe Magic Mary Big Betty tires. I don't think that's going to be a huge differentiator or alter the weight too much. But at 55 pounds, I mean, it's an affordable bike, but it is a bit heavier than some of the competitors. I think it's about 4 pounds heavier than the Score, which is $3,000, more expensive. But for me, I am on Sean's side with this bike. I found it to be very supple off the top, which is something I really enjoy and is hard for a lot of 140 bikes to do. I don't think that the Score has that beat. I think the Marin is very supple. It's playful. I do think volume reducer is going to be needed for more aggressive riders to keep it from blowing through travel as much. But I was really impressed that it was only a 140 bike front and rear. It definitely, I thought, rode like it had a little bit more. And I think possibly the Cush Core, I think that aluminum frame, it just kind of muted and was quiet and supple and sensitive. And I think that instilled a lot more confidence to what you said, to start pushing. I mean, you took this downhill bike tracks, and it's still here.
Yeah, and apart from the occasional G out where I really felt the ground beneath me, it was sweet.
Yeah,
it's a very capable bike. I just think it's kind of in that, like, stuck in between a trail and an enduro bike in how it feels and how it's set up.
So super trail bike.
So I mean, you wouldn't disagree that it is a very good and capable bike.
Absolutely, and it is still a lot of fun. I think
Who do you think ideal consumer and trail type would be for it?
Your everyday rider is not looking to race, not looking to send the absolute gnarliest stuff, but wants something that's going to be kind of equal parts, like, efficient and playful, but still has a little bit of capability to back itself up if you do get into some slightly gnarlier terrain.
Sour Patch? Consumer, yourself? I mean, I feel like you would take this bike and keep it.
I absolutely would. I mean, I rode it down Trail 3 and found the bottom of my ankle support real quick, but God, it was just so much fun to ride. The only complaint I have is with the switch. I don't really like the ergonomics of that new Shimano switch.
Just too big or bulky, or because it sticks off the bar?
Yeah. I mean, I just prefer the 2-switch rocker.
The older,
but I do like
stuff.
having the power button.
That is a definite plus, yeah. Charge port area down low. Marin's not alone there. A lot of the bikes have their charge ports down low. Luckily, it's kind of shielded by the frame, so it's a little bit protected, but I don't know. I mean, we've obviously, it's pouring rain outside. We've been spending a lot of days in mud and slush and puddles and hosing and washing these bikes off, and it's still going, and there's not too much crap in it. So, it works. It's lasted so far. But I think for me, a very solid bike. I think that this is a very versatile bike for people who don't need 160 mil or more of travel. If you're a general trail rider, if you like an alloy frame, if you like, keeping that bike under $6,300 price point, it's a really good option. It lets you push the boundaries a little bit because of the GO, because of that nice planted ride, and I really like that bike for that. Like, you can go out on a mellower, flatter trail with some berms and some corners, and I thought have some fun because it is very lively and active out back. But as these guys said, you can take it on literally a downhill bike worthy trail and bring it out the other side and have it still running. So props to Marin for doing a really good job, I think, on almost every aspect of this bike. A couple little nitpicks on spec here and there, but solid bike. I think increase in 150, if I owned the bike, might be something I would consider doing, again, for my type of riding and terrain. But overall, a very solid option. And again, great work from Marin to get a bike out at a solid price point. $6,300 for the top of the line model is super rad for an XT and TRP DHR Evo Fox performance equipped bike. So don't forget, please subscribe to the channel, guys. This is part of our 13 bike shootout this year, so stick around. Come back and check out the round table where we pit this bike against the other competitors to see how it held up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you out on the trails.